The WNBA's decision to penalize Sandy Brondello feels like a massive overreaction. I assumed this matter was settled after Brondello reached out to Angel Reese. But it's escalating, and I'm not here to amplify it. Regardless, it is news. The league issued a one-game suspension to Brondello over audio captured on a broadcast, in which she claimed Angel Reese received protected treatment or was a protected species during the matchup between the Dream and Toronto Tempo.
If you missed it, Reese then put that on X with a clown emoji and tagged Sandy Brondello, and Brondello apologized shortly thereafter. The WNBA announced the suspension later that day. But now the story does have a new life, and you are going to see harsh blowback and reaction from the people who only wade into the WNBA waters when they get a chance to dunk on the WNBA.
Isn't just some random hot take. Temi argued that protected species is just a common idiom, and that Brondello's remark didn't warrant disciplinary action. She noted that species is an unfortunate and sensitive term to use within
racially charged climate. But if she was saying it about Cece, an appropriate comparison regarding popularity, there would be no outrage. Now, would there? Suspension is laughable. I mean, I think the last point is correct. I do think if that was said about Caitlin Clark,
who somehow finds her way into every single sports debate, I doubt there would be the same level of backlash. I genuinely believe that. One factor that might keep the tension lower here is the fact that Clark and the Fever aren't involved, which is a silver lining.
But, I've seen a lot of people online too people became expert in Australian slang and whatnot. I mean, that is a used term. It's been put in print. It's not, it only takes a quick Google search to see. And that was my thing yesterday when I talked about this, is that I feel like the benefit of the doubt could have been given before Sandy was put on the Jumbotron. This is somebody who's worked in the WNBA for a long time. All my interactions with her have been incredibly pleasant.
Is vital here, because it was clearly just a case of simple misinterpretation. She was clearly implying she was receiving special treatment from the refs. Are thoughts Angel Reese expressed regarding Caitlin Clark during Clark's first year? Now, I'd like to highlight an alternative viewpoint on the matter, as I believe it might provide some useful.
Make the point in a calm, rational way, or at least give you different takes on this from people I respect, or at least respect to go about it without, trying to garner anything for themselves. Nikias here is a very analytically driven, covers the WNBA, covers the NBA a bit, I believe as well.
Maintains a neutral tone and avoids getting dragged into social controversies. That's why his take struck me as worth sharing. He mentioned that it was surprising to see an immediate suspension rather than a fine, especially considering the broader cultural climate and the fact that Sandy offered an instant apology. Ultimately, I'm curious about the consistency of the standards being applied here. He continued, expressing a cynical view, wondering if the league would have merely issued a fine.
I wonder if this would have been a fine if the Chelsea Hilton employee situation and the combo and bad PR around it didn't happen this week. May have been more pressure to take a firmer stand in light of that. And then
the case of Kurt Miller being suspended for his remarks about Liz Cambage back in 2021, which actually makes the current suspension feel more grounded. I want to pass that along because it's a perspective that validates the punitive measures taken. If you look at it from that angle,
if this is the argument you're making, I can at least understand the logic behind the argument. Kurt Miller was suspended for comments he made, I believe, to the referees during the game, saying, come on, she's 300 pounds about Cambage. Now, of course, insulting somebody's weight is not going to be received well. But if the rationale is a coach is held to a higher standard and they shouldn't say anything about a player that can be taken any way or can be seen as a direct shot as a player, even if it was within the bounds of the game, like Angel Reese gets a good whistle,
then that establishes the precedent, right? Instead of simply focusing on the game, Making specific comments about Reese or labeling her with negative stereotypes, the league is setting a boundary. I can't dictate how Angel Reese feels about this, nor can I tell others how to react. But mentioning the Chelsea Gray situation is relevant because it just occurred and the individual responsible was terminated.
That's what you get. Like, you want to put your name out there, you want to write there's no misinterpreting that. That's what you get. But I do think, again, over and over again, I've made this point that the WNBA reacts to social media and what is said on social media,
putting weight on it that far exceeds its real-world relevance. I also believe the athletes themselves grant social media far too much leverage. You only have to look back at last season, when the league took the time to conduct
were like made up sounds from people on social media saying that they were at the Fever game or heard at the Fever game when the Fever played the Sky and they're one. And I just remember landing and seeing that. And I when I saw that, I was like, oh, come on. Because I thought all the talk was going to be about the Fever beating the Sky. And even the flagrant that Clark got on Angel Reese, that's fine. Like, that's all within the on the court.
Reactionary cycle surrounding WNBA coverage is becoming deeply draining. Many potential new fans seem to share this sentiment. They feel the atmosphere is constantly tense, as if every minor comment will be twisted or used as a pretext to label them something hateful. Because, regardless of the fact that such vitriol should never be directed at anyone, and I unequivocally denounce racism in the strongest possible language, it is incredibly damaging to be branded a bigot or a hate group affiliate simply for supporting a team.
If you aren't, that's super insulting. It hurts really bad. Like, because you're not, right? Like, for a lot of people, it would. And for Sandy Brondello, I think that's the fallout here, is this now is attached to her when she did not mean it in that way whatsoever. Like, clearly, if you take a beat, if you give her the benefit of the doubt, like I said before, I think anybody would come away thinking,
exactly. That was the extent of it. There was zero racial intent behind those words. Yet now, it is going to be plastered all over the headlines. And the people who might privately understand my perspective are now being handed a microphone to spread disparagement. I hold the league somewhat responsible here because Sandy provided an immediate and sincere apology. And I felt that
it was the end of it, but you have this meeting coming up at All-Star about how they might be able to control sports gambling hate and what's said on social media and whatever else. I don't know what else is on the table. And given that is coming up so soon, and given the thing with Chelsea just happened, it does feel like
they are desperate to signal, see, we're taking action, even if the action being taken is inadequate and potentially counterproductive. Let me rephrase. Caitlin Clark puts up a legendary performance
that night, and then the story becomes this it's like a cycle with the WNBA. It always feels like that with the WNBA, where the narrative in the story becomes about something else other than the great play on the court, and it can be exhausting, especially when anybody, I think, who's looking at this,
the underlying motives, or gauge someone's true perspective, as it's clear that, honestly, Sandy Brondello had no malicious intent whatsoever, or any negative aim. Sure, one might argue that if she had kept quiet, none of this drama would exist. I could similarly argue that had Angel Reese not gone public, this wouldn't have blown up. But regardless,
personally think, whatever you think about what she said, whatever you think about whether she should have apologized or whatever, I thought the story was done after the apology, and now it continues to go on. And it's just the par for the course, I guess, for covering the WNBA.